Have you ever gotten that sudden, kind of uncomfortable knot in your stomach right when you were worried about something? It's a very real, very physical sensation, isn't it? But here's the thing. There's no actual physical object causing that knot. It's entirely generated by your emotional state. And this super common experience, it's actually the key to understanding a massive hidden network that's operating inside of you every single day.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving right into the mindful gut, bridging emotion and digestion. We're going to unpack the powerful biological connection between our minds, our big emotions, and our digestive systems. Because it turns out, our thoughts and our physical health are way more intertwined than we usually give them credit for. And by really understanding this connection, we can radically change how we feel, both mentally and physically.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the stress-gut connection, followed by the emotional eating trap. Then we'll shift gears into some real solutions, the power of mindful eating, super skills for big feelings, and finally, your mind-body fuel plan.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the stress-gut connection, how our thoughts affect our body.
So let's start right up in the mind. Think about a real danger, like an actual physical threat that requires you to take immediate action, versus an imagined danger, which is really just an anxious thought. Well, here is the absolutely fascinating biological glitch. Your brain literally does not distinguish between a real stressor or an imagined one. A stressful thought creates the exact same physical stress chemistry in your body as a real physical threat. Crazy, right?
To put this into perspective, think about a kid who is super anxious about a big school presentation and suddenly gets a huge knot in their stomach. They aren't physically sick. Rather, that psychological cloud of worry in their mind is rippling down, signaling the gut to tense up and effectively stalling their digestion. The emotional has literally become physical.
And look, the fallout from this goes way beyond just a temporary tummy ache. As this quote plainly states, stress causes digestive upset and kills healthy gut bacteria. Because your brain doesn't know the threat is just an imagined worry, the resulting stress chemistry makes it so much harder for your body to digest food and absorb vital nutrients. Constant worry literally changes the biological makeup of our gut.
Moving right along to Section 2, the emotional eating trap. Feelings, food, more than just hunger.
This biological confusion we just talked about leads us directly into how we instinctively try to fix those uncomfortable physical feelings. Let's clearly define what we're talking about here. Emotional eating is eating in response to feelings instead of physical hunger. It is crucial to emphasize the difference here. You aren't giving your body fuel because it lacks energy. You're giving your body food to try and quiet down a really loud emotional response. Now, what's really interesting to point out here is the sheer variety of triggers. We're talking boredom, stress, fatigue, depression, anger, anxiety, and loneliness. Any of these very distinct emotions can prompt us to reach for comfort foods, usually things like sweets or chips. We are essentially trying to medicate a wide spectrum of big feelings with snacks.
The tricky part, emotional eating is a total cycle. In the short term, sure, you get this fleeting happiness and distraction. The food actually does bring some temporary comfort. But in the long term, because the root issue was never physical hunger to begin with, the original sad or angry feeling inevitably returns. And it often brings this dark cloud of guilt right along with it. The distraction fades and you just end up feeling worse than before.
All right, let's pivot to some solutions in Section 3, the power of mindful eating, tuning into your body's smart cues.
So, how exactly do we break free from this false fix? Well, we start by tuning into our internal cues. Mindful eating is all about strengthening that communication network between your gut and your brain, and you do it in 3 specific steps. First, simply slow down. Second, use your senses. Really notice the colors, the smells, the tastes, and the textures of what you're eating to make it an active, present experience. And third, check the hunger scale. So the crucial point here is actively checking your body's internal signals, both before and after a snack, aiming for what we call the green zone. By checking in with your physical self, you're allowing your body to actually tell you when the amount of food is just right, rather than letting your emotions dictate when the meal is over. Which brings us to Section 4, super skills for big feelings. Because let's be real, those big emotions are still gonna happen. Mindful eating handles the food side of the equation, but we need tools for the emotional side, right? Consider a kid who is incredibly frustrated because they just can't solve a difficult puzzle.
That frustration is a huge feeling, and the instinct might be to ask for a snack to soothe it, but instead they pause. They remember their happy choices list and decide to just draw for a few minutes. This brief, creative pause completely overrides the urge to eat. When they return to the puzzle, their mind is calmer and they can actually solve it. And this brilliantly illustrates the idea of a happy choices list. Instead of eating, you might talk to a trusted adult or a friend, draw or do something creative, play outside, listen to some music, or practice deep breathing. When you get that urge to eat, but you know you aren't actually physically hungry, these holistic coping mechanisms step in to process the emotional stress in a healthy way.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, your mind-body fuel plan, combining healthy food, smart feelings, and happy habits.
Let's bring all these concepts and tools together into a consistent daily routine. The ultimate goal here is homeostasis. Simply put, that's balance. Your body naturally wants to be in a state of balance, and nutrition, working right alongside mindfulness, brings your body back into this alignment. Keep in mind, the impact of nutrition and these holistic habits can be kind of slow, but with a little patience and consistency, these small daily changes absolutely yield life-changing mind-body results.
To actually maintain that balance, a holistic routine requires equal attention to 5 key areas: nutrient-rich foods, hydration, good sleep, joyful movement, and human connection. Nutrition alone just isn't the whole picture. Physical habits and emotional habits are equally vital elements to fuel your absolute best self and achieve true homeostasis. We've covered a ton of ground today, but I want to leave you with a thought that flips our core problem completely on its head. We learned earlier that your brain literally cannot tell the difference between a real physical danger and an imagined stressful thought. It reacts to both by creating physical stress. So the big question is, if your brain can't tell the difference between real and imagined stress, what new, beautiful, imagined peace will you feed it today? Thank you so much for exploring the mindful gut with me. Take these tools, build your happy choices list, and start bringing your mind and body into perfect balance.